Ready to get started? How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
So this is AustinRB, the monthly meeting of the Ruby heads, Ruby call, Rubyists, whatever we want to be this month. Before we start, a few announcements. Netspin was gracious enough to provide us with the food tonight. I tell them you're all thrilled they're not here. Capital Factory is providing us with the space for the evening, so be sure to tell the ladies up front thanks. Thanks to Hal, who's presenting tonight. Hal Fulton. Nola has some AustinRB stickers, sponsored by her company. She sponsors the meetup, so the online space that we have, thank her for. One other announcement, so AustinRB is having a startup crawl booth. It's for the startup crawl, right, Nola?
Right.
Yeah, so Thursday night we're gonna have a booth for the startup crawl, and can use some volunteers to sit at the desk and talk to people coming by. I'm going to be in Toronto, or I would help out, but I can tell you from experience, it's a really good opportunity to network with other developers, other companies doing stuff. Everybody's trying to hire Rubyyists, so it's really good, high-profile spot to be to talk about the industry and what people need and companies that are hiring, that sort of thing. First thing we do is introductions. We're a small enough group that we can do that without spending the entire meeting doing that. I'm standing up, so I'll start. I'm Keith Gaddis, developer here in town, working for myself, doing architectural and Ruby consulting and development consulting in general. I've been doing Ruby for going on 10 years now. Next year will be 10 years. With that, Matt, you want to start?
Sure. I'm Matt Lawrence. I'm mostly a sysadmin. I've been doing Ruby since 2003, and I've known Hal since 2003. He's part of the reason I managed to learn Ruby. The next one, I am looking for work. So.
Yeah, by the way, if you're looking or hiring, do we usually do that in a separate thing, Nola, or do we say?
Just put it here because it's so small.
Yeah, if you're looking or hiring, feel free to say something.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am new to Ruby and Rails. I'm a student at the Iron Yard, which is a coding 3-month intensive coding school. And I will be looking for work.
My name is Mike. I work at a credit card processing company called Affinipay. I've been doing Ruby for about 2 years.
Next row.
I'm Jeffrey. I work here at the Capital Factory, a company called Cypher. We use Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, and actually we're looking for someone who has a lot of knowledge with JavaScript and some Ruby on Rails. So if you're that person or you know somebody, then just let me know.
You're up.
I'm Brad Rochelle. I'm basically a freelancer. I've done about 40 years of Ruby on Rails and about a year of Python at this point.
My name is Ollie Treadwell. I work with Union Metrics up north and have been working in Ruby for 2 years now. So always interested to see what new people are up to and work with fun people. So thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Nat, and I work at Samsung doing something completely unrelated. But I've been teaching myself Ruby for the past 3 months, and I'm hoping to get into one of those coding boot camps as well. And we'll be looking forward.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh. I do DevOps here in Austin, although recently I've trying to break into like security research and penetration testing. I've been doing Chef development rather than Ruby for about 2 years. Been in Ruby for maybe 3 years, but not like super strong. But I still like the Ruby community and I love coming to these things. So thank you.
Awesome.
My name's Kenneth. I don't really have any background in Ruby, but I'm wanting to learn. My background's more in VBA and SQL. I'm just looking to find employment enough, hopefully in the financial sector of innovation.
Okay.
I'm Nola. My voice is almost gone. That's why I asked Keith here to MC for me, because I can't even speak loud enough, I don't think, to reach everyone. I've been doing Ruby for 9 years. I'm in my own consulting company doing Ruby and Clojure right now.
I'm Heather. I'm a senior software engineer in automation, and I'm doing Ruby Cucumber at Rapid. Not looking.
I'm Shep. I've been a software developer for about 3 years, but I'm still learning new Ruby and Rails. I'm taking a sabbatical from work right now, so I'm not looking for work.
Hi, my name is Jay Quigley. I am a recent graduate of Dev Bootcamp in Chicago, visiting Austin Startup Week. I am looking for work. Been doing Ruby for about 8 months, I guess.
My name's Ryan. I'm a student at the Iron Yard, and with some of these guys and Michelle, I've been learning Ruby on Rails for about 6 weeks now. So I'll be looking for work in a little while.
My name is Mike. I'm also at the Iron Yard in the Ruby on Rails backend. I started studying code a little over a year ago. Started with Java, moved to JavaScript, and I'm loving Ruby and Rails. It's pretty stuff. I will be looking for work in a couple months. There we go.
Hi, I'm Garrett. I've been doing Ruby for not very long now, and I hang out with these guys, going to school with them. And yeah, I'm just here for the free food and the nice conversation.
And I think I'm the last one for the Iron Yard. Nobody else made it. We're about halfway through our process. We're really enjoying it. Ruby on Rails. We're just doing JavaScript today. So most of us are trying to do homework while we're here. But the Ruby community is great, and so we really enjoy being here.
Awesome.
I'm Nathan. I work at AMD where I sprinkle Ruby amongst the Java, like some chocolate chip cookies. That analogy worked better.
It's the way to be subversive.
That's good. I'm Michael. I'm a technical writer. I took a 4-week introduction to Ruby a few years ago from Cab Forward. I got into technical writing as a programmer on a database project where nobody wanted to write the documentation. And having done a couple of books and magazine articles, I did the user manual and have done quite a few user manuals and 300 more magazine articles since. I'm pretty active in the security industry here. My degrees happen to be in criminology, so I'm active in OWASP and LASCON.
My name is Titus Fortner. I maintain the Ruby bindings for Selenium, and I'm also the lead developer on Water, both testing tools. I work for my day job at the Honest Company, which has an office here in town, and it's a wonderful place to work. We're doing all sorts of, ECMA 6 and Angular 2.0 ready kind of code, fun things with the Rails backend. And we're definitely hiring for all kinds of things, so let me know if you're interested.
You're moving downtown eventually?
No promises. No promises. We're expanding where we're at now.
Oh.
So we're up in near Cedar Park area right now. So it's a little north-ish, but we've got cheap rent, so it helps.
It is cheap up there. I used to live up in Cedar Park, right?
Well, yeah, and LegalZoom, I guess one of our founders is a part owner of LegalZoom, so we're just in that.
Awesome. That's Will Hartley's company, right? Yeah.
I just work in the building.
Hi, my name is Yusuf. I've been doing Ruby since 2008. Recently moved here to Austin and also started my own consulting company, and I work for clients who want to build custom apps, mainly in the Ruby Python type of world, of course, with all the JavaScript that comes with it and fun stuff.
Lastly, Hal.
Hal Fulton. Supposedly I wrote a book 3 times. I've been using Ruby since October of 1999. So I'm probably the most old-time person in this room. Matt being the second. And if there's a job for me in Austin, let me know.
Sure there is. Well, it's your turn now. So let's just switch it over.
I also have a handful of business cards here, so come and meet me.
What was the keyword for looking those up again? Those are pretty cool business cards.
Lenticular business cards. Yeah. They should come with drum and Okay, anyway. So I didn't make any fancy slides or anything. I thought we would work in Vim and a command line and maybe an IRB.
You make your text a little bit bigger?
Could. Or you can get glasses. Is that better? Little? We'll probably be mostly working this window. If we go back to the other one, I'll make it bigger again. The topic I picked was core methods that we forget we have, because there are so many of them, and it keeps growing. I mean, in Ruby, the first Ruby I saw was 1.4, and then I saw 1.6, 1.8, 2.0, 2.2, and the core methods have just increased in number ever since then. And in a way, that's good for me, because every time they add a core method, I get to rip a page out of the book, and it gets a little shorter, so I can put more other stuff in there. No, but seriously, when I first wrote the Ruby way, I was saying things like, well, if you want to do this with an array, or this with a string, or this with a hash, you can do it this way. I would show people 8 or 10 lines of code and explain it. Well, then next year, somebody adds a method to the core that does that. So you just say, if you want to do this, use this method, here's how it works. It's a lot shorter. Anyway, there's so much junk in there that we forget all about it. And I started doing research, and I didn't really even get finished. But let's look at array, first of all. If you have a regular old array, there are basically 3 kinds of things you can do with it. You can initialize it or transform it in some way. You can access individual items in the array, and that includes iterating. Or you can search the array for things, and broadly speaking, that's all you can do. So, for example, let's look at array delete. Does everyone know that even exists? Works like this. I've initialized array A3 with just a bunch of numbers from 0 to 25, or I guess 1 to 25, and then randomize them. So if I say delete 22 from that array, it will find every instance of 22 and remove it. And it actually, changes the array. It doesn't just return you a new one. That confuses some people because it doesn't end in an exclamation point. The whole exclamation point thing is not a hard and fast rule. It's when you have something like delete, it's sort of understood that it changes the thing you're operating on, so you don't have to have the bang on it. Of course, once in a while you get tripped up, but that's just the way life is. Now, there's also a thing called delete at, which will delete a specific item in the array. And for example, here I say delete at 3, so that means index 3 in the array. And of course, it's 0 index, so it's 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. It deletes the 12. So you notice in the result, the 12 is no longer there. And I can't remember, but I think you can put like an entire list of things there. I guess if anybody's curious about that, we'll try it later. If not, we'll just move on. What the heck? Okay, reject. Do people know what reject does? Anybody tell me?
Rejects words that don't match up.
Okay, does it give you a new array, or does it modify the other one?
You a new array, right?
Yeah. So for example, if I start out with an array like this, I'm randomizing that every time, which is why they look different every time. If I say, take this array and reject every x such that x is greater than 10, this will give me a new array, as you see here. Yeah, so 10 is the highest value there, and all the higher values have been stripped away, or they're not in the result array. The original array is unchanged. Now, similar to that, it seems like there are always half a dozen ways to do things. Somebody?
Delete if, select.
Yeah, delete if, let's see. I have an example for that one also. Yeah, here I say delete if delete every x such that x is greater than 10, and it gives us a result array with the numbers smaller than 10, but it also changes the original array. See, so that's the same thing, only different. Now, select. I think select was originally maybe the only thing like this. Does everybody remember how it works? Let me just jump into IRB.
I think it's the opposite of reject.
Yeah, I think that's right. I still get confused over details myself, frankly. But if you, all right, let's look at this. Here's our array. Let's say select every x such that x mod 2 is 0. Huh?
Can you do it even?
Yeah. Even, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so that gives me even. However, notice the original array is, of course, not changed. Now, I think there's a, I get confused about this too. I think there's a select with an exclamation point, right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So that, of course, gives the same result, but it does change the original receiver. So some things come in two flavors like that, and some things don't. Usually, whether they do or don't is supposed to be common sense, but your common sense has to be trained a little bit. Now, I especially get confused between things like take and drop, because First of all, they didn't even exist when I started doing this kind of thing. Let's look at the way take works. In this case, I'm saying take 5 elements from the front of this array, and it really just strips off that many and gives them to you. Does not change the original array. I'm not really sure why some of these things exist, because, well, honestly, think about it. How does that differ from, say, array 0.4, like that? Well, maybe 5 is a little bit clearer. A3, yeah. You have to spell it right. Please do on that. Yeah, I don't understand what the real difference is there, except 5 is maybe more explicit. And I was also looking at fill earlier. Do you know about fill at all? If you have an array that already exists, already has elements in it, you can say, take this array and fill it with some value like that. It'll just replace every element of the array with that value. So, like that. You know, I'm not sure why. You know, if it's,
why would that be a core method?
Huh?
Why would that be a core method?
Sometimes it seems a little bit simple. I mean, you know, a little bit silly. If I were going to do something like that, I would just say, well, I'll do a map in place, and I'll replace every element with a 66, and that does the same thing. But whatever floats your boat.
How long has Phil been in the standard library?
I don't know. I didn't really notice it until a couple of days ago, but it may have been there all along.
Now, it used to be the way to, like, anytime you initialize an array, right? You want to initialize all of the contents of it, so maybe it's all
You still can do that. Let's say A4 equals array.new. Let's say I want an array of 10 elements. I can do that. They all end up nil. I think, let's see, if I do this, will that work? Yes. I wouldn't be surprised if
you give Phil a limiter like -5
that also works.
To show, like, to do like from the back of the array with the last 5 elements.
Delimiter, I don't think so.
So if you said like A3.fill 5, -3.
That might be a question, you know, more easily looked up.
To the docs.
Yes. Oh, silly me.
Object start length.
There are like, silly me, what was I thinking? There are like 6 different ways to call fill. Yes. So, so yeah, you could probably like write an entire operating system using nothing but calls to fill. Oh. Let's see, the sort of nil is equivalent to 0. The length of nil is equivalent to the length of the array, blah, blah. Yeah, this is me not paying enough attention here. But yeah, so now we all know that fill exists and can do like more things than you would ever want. Okay, now we were talking about take a minute ago. There is also a take while, which is different in the sense that we don't say how many things we want to take. We give a condition for how far into the array we want to go. So, for example, I can say, well, here's my array. It goes like 9, 8, 19, blah, blah, like that. If I say take while x is less than 18, it will grab me 9 and 8 and stop at 19 because 19 is greater than 18. And it does not change the source array, of course. Now, just to make that a little clearer, I'll randomize that again. Yeah, you see exactly the way it works. It takes elements from the front of the array as long as they're less than 18. So drop and drop while work much the same way. They're exactly the same, only completely different. If I say drop 5 on this array, it will get rid of these entries here, the first 5 entries, and it will start with 2 and proceed to the end. So what I get back starts with 2, 13, 25, and so on. And then of course the original array is unchanged. Drop while, you can now intuitively guess how it's going to work. If, well, in this case it doesn't really do anything because my array just happened to randomize wrong. I'm saying drop items from this array as long as they're under 18. But our very first one is 25, so let me run that a few more times. Yeah, here we go. So our array starts out 9, 6, 23, 7. So we'll end up stripping off the 9 and the 6, and the new array will start with 23. And the original is, of course, unchanged. Now, any question about that? Makes sense? Now that you know it's there, you'll find a use for it within a week. That's how these things work. Just like when you learn a word you haven't ever heard before, in 3 days you see it on a billboard. You ever had that happen? Now, array concat. Do people know about concat for arrays? Let me justify its existence here for a second. Suppose my array is like 3, 4, 5, and I have another array like 8, 9, like that. Suppose I want to say A3 is A1 plus A2. That works as you expect, right? But if that's all you're doing, that's perfectly fine. But if you're using really big arrays and or you've got this in a big loop, it gets to be inefficient. And the reason is you're constructing a completely new array and copying the elements from the original to the new object. You're not actually appending when you do that. You're really creating a brand new object and moving all the elements from the other 2 objects into it, or copying them. So in the cases where you're doing this like millions or billions of times, it gets to be slow. So you would like to have a way to concatenate an array directly onto an existing one. It will save all that effort. Now, the naive effort is to do something like this. Oh, why do you not want to do that? Right. Yeah. Your last element will now be an array, because the concatenation operator is exactly that. It puts a new element onto an array. It doesn't concatenate, or the append operator, I guess you should call it. Now, so the right way to do this, we've got A1, A2, we want to concatenate them. The right way to do it is this.
I think you
I
want to
messed that up. as I was saying, we've got A1, A2, and I want to do that. So I do that, I get that result. Now, notice that I haven't just been returned a new array, I've actually changed the old array. That's why it's so much faster. Okay, so you need to know about that. And if you ever are doing something hundreds of millions of times like that, then know that concatenation will be faster always. Now, imagine you're doing some kind of operation like rotating a deck of cards, take a card off the top, put it on the bottom, that kind of thing. You can use array rotate for that. I don't know how new that method is, but I literally didn't know about it until less than a week ago. So if we start with this array that goes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday through Saturday, like that, if we rotate it without a parameter, we get Monday through Sunday, right? Now, why does the parameter apparently default to 1?
Why not?
Why not? It's got, yeah, why not 17, right? Well, for a second, I asked myself, why doesn't it default to 0? And I was trying to catch some of you in that same logic, but if you rotate something 0 times, obviously nothing happens. So you can rotate 0, but 1 is a reasonable default because 1 is the minimum that you're likely going to actually intend to rotate something. So if you instead give it a parameter of, say, 3, then it will do that many rotate operations in a row, basically. So now the week goes Wednesday through Tuesday, like that. Make sense?
Can you rotate with negative numbers?
I would think so, but I haven't tried it.
Is rotate a mutating operator or mutating method?
No. I don't. We'll check. I'm sure it's not, but the more sure I am, the more likely I am to be wrong. Okay, A5 dot rotate, let's say -2. Oh, yeah. You have to actually be able to type also.
Yes.
Okay, so negative numbers work fine. That's nice to know. And it does not change the original array. It just gives you a result.
Is there a bang method version?
Is it modulo?
That's a good point. I think there is a bang. Let's try that. Yep. So then that will change the original.
Is it modulo? If you rotate 14, is that the same as rotate 3?
You ask all these wonderful questions. Oh, I'll pick some other number. Yes. It seems to work. Yeah. If that's right.
Looks right. We'll do A5 rotate 2. It should be the same.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that some developer thought of that before any of us did just now. Could have been Matt's, could have been somebody else. Okay, transpose is kind of interesting. It's useful when you've got an array of arrays and you're sort of using it like a matrix, not necessarily a square matrix, although it could be. Basically, it interchanges your rows and columns. So I've got this very contrived example here where I start with 2 rows of 3 columns, a 2 by 3 matrix, basically. Like row 0, column 0, all the way up to like row 1, column 2. I call transpose on that, and it's like flipping the matrix, 9 degrees, flipping the rows and columns. So we end up, instead of 2 rows of 3 columns, we have 3 rows of 2 columns. So it works like that. And you can get an error if your array isn't truly rectangular. I can't remember exactly how it works. If you're curious, we can try it. Like suppose I omit one of these things here. Now I've got 2 rows, but the second row is short. So it should give me an error if I try to transpose it. Yeah, size differs. It kind of makes sense.
This is a good use for Phil.
Yes. Yes, that's Dr. Phil. Okay, combinations, permutations, anybody ever do that stuff?
Yeah.
It's built right into array. It wasn't always. In fact, I sort of expected to see those things in the enumerable module instead, and I haven't worked out yet quite why they're not. But I'm sure there's a good reason. So anyway, I start out with the first few letters of the Greek alphabet, and I say, take all these letters 2 at a time and give me all those combinations. So there should be, what, 42 combinations? Is that right? I'm not sure. Anyway, no, it can't be 42. That's way too many. Hold on, I'm curious.
7 times 6 times 5. Just do a count on your array and see it. Let me go backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's half of 42. 7 times 6 divided by 2. Yeah, I'm starting to remember my 11th grade math now. Anyway.
Should be 6 by 9.
Huh?
What is 6 multiplied by 9? 42.
It's a number, yes.
Base 13. Anyway. Hitchhikers guy. Never mind.
So I was going to say something here. What was it? Oh, yeah. What do you notice unusual about this? Like anything not quite intuitive?
I would have
They're
expected
unique.
I would have expected it to say alpha first.
Oh,
That's not the definition of combination.
that's true. But the that's because an ordinary combination by default doesn't combine things with themselves. So that's just a little mathematical definition. We've got a repeated combination also, which will include those. But what else? What am I trying to get you to see here?
It's not returning an array.
Yeah, it's not returning an array. I had to explicitly put 2a on here. So what it is returning is an enumerator. And so if I now, well, basically you can do anything with this enumerator that you can do with any other enumerator. For example, you can say next to get the first item, then I want the next pair, the next one again. But just for simplicity here, I just took the enumerator and converted it directly to an array, which you can always do.
So what happens if you modify a 7
after you create the
Shouldn't make any difference because the once the enumerator is initialized, it's not tied to anything that it was initialized from.
Okay, so it
Like I should be able to
duplicates
say
the,
A7. Let's stick on A and a B and a C. So A7 is different now, but A8, just keeps giving us the stuff that it knows how to give us, and that's it. And eventually it'll run out, and gives the stop iteration exception, which under ordinary circumstances, that's like caught under the covers. Okay, so that sort of thing can theoretically be useful. Now Michelle was asking about this a second ago. If we want to do not strict combinations, but the kind where you can sort of, pull a marble out of the jar and put it back in before you pull out another one. There's a repeated combination method, and that, you see right away, the first one you see is alpha alpha. And so all the other repeats are in there. So instead of like 21 pairs, you get 28. So if you're doing any kind of, game theory, you're writing your own, Texas Hold'em server or whatever, that sort of thing can be useful. Now, I never can remember the difference between combinations and permutations. I guess a permutation takes all of the elements, and it's all about order.
Yeah, they're order dependent.
Okay. Yeah, so here I took just the first 3 letters of the Greek alphabet. I said, okay, give me all the permutations of that and convert it to an array. So I got like these results. There should be 6 ways of permuting those. Just like if there were 3 of us standing in a row up here, there would be 6 ways you could arrange the order of us. And I don't think that takes any parameter, does it? I don't think it makes sense for it to take one. But it does. Yeah, that just shows that I'm dumb and I've forgotten my 11th grade math completely. When invoked with a block, blah, blah. If n is not specified, you have all permutations. What does the n mean?
So you can permutate n elements of the array. Not necessarily all of them.
So you can put any combination of 3 numbers.
All permutations of length n. Okay, I got you. So for example, if I had an array of length 5 to start with, and I want all the permutations of that, if I want all the permutations of length 3, then yeah, that'll give me that. Round up to a, yeah, so that gives me those. Yeah. 60 triplets we got out of there. Yeah, so that's the way that works. Okay, there's also, how am I doing on time? Am I supposed to shut up in a few minutes?
No, you got 15 minutes, and you can go a little longer if you don't have to be looking afterwards.
Whatever. I'll see if I can put every one of you to sleep then. There's also a product method here, which basically does sort of a cross product on 2 arrays. So if I've got arrays with elements A and B and 1, 2, 3, and I do a product on those, the result I get is a bunch of 2-element arrays of the form A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, like that. So just, in math, it's like a cross product. It does, I don't know another way to explain it, but I think you see what it does. Now, what else? Oh yeah, zip. Zip is not the same thing. I probably picked kind of a bad example here, which I'll go ahead and show you. But yeah, here it tries to match up corresponding pairs, from each array. Like, you sort of assume that the arrays are of the same length, but if they're not, it'll just stop when it reaches the end of the short one. A more realistic example would be like, like names and phone numbers or something. You have an array of names, in the proper order, an array of phone numbers are in the proper order. So you zip them, and then you get an array of 2-element arrays, each one of the form name, phone number, name, phone number, name, phone number, like that. But if you run out, it doesn't give you an error. It just stops at the length of the shorter array.
I think it keeps going. If the first array is longer, I think it just adds nil, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. So in other words, yeah, if you reverse the order here, it makes a difference. Yeah, let's take a look at that. If I say A7.zip A8, I do get that, which I just showed you. But if I say A8.zip A7, yeah, you're right. It's not the shorter array that matters. It's the first array that you name that drives it. So yeah, the first one is longer in this case. So when it runs out of the other one, it puts a nil wherever it has to. Thank you for correcting me there. Now, there are various other interesting things in array. Do you know about sample? You ever seen that? Okay, so you've seen shuffle also. Those are, they pick random values. That's pretty intuitive. Values at, do you know that one? Personally, I love that because I use it a lot, probably just because I know that it's there, and so I mentally, find myself solving problems where I can use it. But like they will say, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, I solve my problems in terms of what I know is in my toolbox, and this is one of the things that I know is there. So let's say that we've got an array which is just the numbers 1 through 20, like that. Now, suppose I want just certain values from this array. Suppose this was some magic thing that I read out of a binary file or out of some esoteric file format, and I know that I want values 0, 5, 11, and 12. Those particular indices in the array. I can just say array dot values at 0, 5, 11, 12, like that. And hashes work the same way. If I if I created a hash and let's see, all of a sudden my brain shut down. I was thinking of some clever way to make some arbitrary hash out of this, but no, I won't. I'll just do it this
You
way.
can zip it with 1 to 20 and 20 to 1. Could you, is there a method to turn it two full arrays into hashes?
I'll just make up something stupid. I'll type instead of trying to be clever.
There is a way, by the way, to take a tuple, but it's complicated. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I can never remember it off the top of my head. It's like it seems like it's a pain, so I
It's
don't
like
bother.
it feels like hash.new something.
Yeah,
Or you can also
and a
just
hash.
do .2h.
I don't know, my mind is not working. I've been standing up too long. But the point is, you can do this trick with hashes also. Like if you've got A, B, C, and D as hash keys, you can grab two things at once out of the hash by specifying both keys, and it'll just give you an array back. Let's see. Index. People know about index and our index.
Just the index of value, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna shuffle this just to make it a little bit clearer. If I'm asking the question, where in this array will I find the value 18? I can do that, and it will say, well, it's in location 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is correct. Now, just for grins, let me put a couple of other 18s in here. Okay, so now our array looks like this. If we do index, that doesn't change anything. It says, well, I found 18 in position 5 in the array, but that's going left to right, starting at location 0 and going up. If we want to go the opposite way, we can go from the right with our index, and it will find that there is 18 in location 14 in the array. Okay. Now, there's also, I think you can do like find index or something like that and get an array of all the locations. Apparently not. You can get find all, but they'll just give you the value. No, what am I saying? Find all takes a block. See, that's kind of dumb. It tells me, hooray, there were 4 18s in there. How would I honestly can't figure this out right at the moment. How would I find the indices of those values?
Is there find the indices instead of index?
There is find index. So this returns the first object.
Does index take a block? Does it have a form that takes a
I
block?
don't think so.
Or does take a block, but still
Gives you the same.
Seems like there should be a way to do that, but I don't know.
I think of a crazy one that may or not work.
Okay.
So the find all dot with index
Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say it's H with index,
and then you put
Right, you have to return.
with index, and then you put, we have to put in the block, you have to put x comma I in the block of argument.
Yeah.
X comma I, and you say I if x equals 18. But it might not work.
This is why people create core methods, because they don't want to type things like this.
Right. And that still doesn't work.
Well, it's still going to return the same things, but you can use the outside the closure variable, an external variable. You could do map with index. To get the.
Yeah, map.
What if I did it backwards, like this?
You gotta have an enumerable.
So what will it? Yeah, because array is not enumerable.
You could do select with index.
There we go.
There we go.
Well, that'll work.
That's kind of magic. Yeah, what I did here was take an array, say, okay, turn this into an enumerator, add the index on, and find all pairs such that x is 18.
So what if you change find all to map? Would that just give you the array of the NPC?
Maybe.
Not unique. Not compact.
Not compact, yeah. You know about compact? Everybody takes out the nils. Oopsie-doo. How to waste time in Ruby.
That's simpler than just writing it out, writing the code to walk the array. Okay.
Well, see, that's kind of
That's job security.
that's the way I felt when I saw inject
Each
many years
index
ago.
and then map after. Each
Each
index
index.
returns enumerable, and then you map over the enumerable.
Okay.
And then you have your index value, you have your value of your index.
Or you could just break it into 2 lines of code that anybody can read.
By the way, your battery is low.
Every speaker should have that feature. Oh, I'll have to remember that. Like, here, use my laptop. Battery's at 31%. Oh, well, I haven't got much else to show you anyway. A few little string goodies. Grab. Huh?
Just reading the S1.
Oh.
Once upon
yeah.
a night during while I pondered weekend.
Yeah, my mother taught English, so I'm always slipping in a little bit of literature here and there wherever I can, just to make the math and computer science people's head explode a little bit. Okay, so we've got center, L-just, and R-just for strings. Does anybody know about those? They're kind of not as useful as they might have been in the old days, but basically you can specify the width of something you want, and you can center the string inside that string. It'll pad it on the left and right with spaces. Woohoo. You would love that in 1978, right?
Hey, I
Realizing
used to
that half
program
of
in
you were not
COBOL.
born.
It's useful.
Huh?
I used to program in COBOL.
So,
It was 20 lines.
L-just, left justify works much the same way, except it sticks to the left of the string, and right justify, R-just, sticks in the right, like that. So if you're ever printing out stuff in columns, you know, old-fashioned report type stuff, you can use that kind of thing.
Or you can use printf.
Or you can use printf, yeah. Now, concat and prepend. Arrays and strings are deep down inside sort of the same thing. Like, don't tell anybody I said that, but an array is a sequence of anything, and a string is a sequence of just characters. Ruby doesn't always reflect that. There are things you can do with arrays that you can't do with strings, and vice versa. But mathematically, they're sort of similar. So we can concatenate one string onto another like this, and it does affect the original thing, just like concat for an array. And it is faster than using plus equal, for the same reason I told you. Although I think the append operator, the double less than, will work just as well in this case. Now, there is also a string prepend, which just puts them in the reverse order. I want to stick the new string before the old one instead of after it. Speaking again as the son of an English teacher, prepend is not even a real word, right? Because appending onto the front and appending onto the back, they're really just appending. Prepend was a word made up by computer scientists. We should say postpend for the other one, right? No, you're not appending, you're postpending.
Well, as secretary for a user group, I get people's memberships in, first name, last name order, and I'm gonna flip them around, in a spreadsheet. That's a little bit of work.
Yes.
We're having to explain the word instantiation to a technical writer, 30 years ago. There's no such word. Well, yes, there is.
There is now. Remind me to tell you about the some of the grammar people at IBM who were cleaning up some of the programmeries before they made the manuals. They had, programmers used some god-awful words that nobody else would ever use, like rummable and rummify and all kinds of horrific things. But they had one or two things on this. I'm like, there's no other way to say that. Like, they had dereference a pointer on their bad list. I'm like, what do you say instead of that? I said, oh, we've been changing that to remove a reference to a pointer.
No.
Probably have done that hundreds of times before I just happened to see that on the board. I'm like, you can't say that. If you defend your country, are you removing offend? Oh gosh. Anyway, hashes. There are a couple of fun things with hashes. Have you ever seen hash invert? Works pretty much as you would expect. It's like, instead of going kaboom.
Okay.
Well, it was time to quit anyway, right?
That's the lesson.
Oh, there's an update. An update is interesting because it lets you handle collisions. Like, suppose you've got a hash and you say, well, I want to take the keys from this other hash and stick them in. But what if there's some conflict? The block that you pass to invert, it gets the key, the first value, and the second value. So you can take that and decide what to do. You can say, I'll let this be an array of the value from the first hash and the value from the second one. Or you can say, the value from the first hash always wins. Or you could say, whichever one is bigger wins, or any logic you want.
So it's like merge, but with more control over what fits in.
I think they may actually be aliases for each other. I'm not sure, because in the simple case, update just does what you would expect. I mean, if the first hash has keys A, B, and C, and the second hash has keys E and F, then there's no problem. It just does it naturally. It's only when they have keys in common that you have to decide how to handle it. Okay, so in the absence of a laptop, I'll answer any questions that you have that can be answered without a laptop. Sounds like there aren't any. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.